Access granted.
Subject: interview with Lenny Panzica and Cory Cantelupe. Body: on 7/19/2021, Christopher McLeod aka Diagnostic 80 was tasked with the mission of interviewing two gentlemen at the heart of Hasbro's G.I. Joe classified series about their recent work on this awesome line: Hasbro Product Design Manager Lenny Panzica and Sculpt Manager Cory Cantelupe. Here's what we could show you from this G14 classified interview.
Access granted.
If you've been keeping count like I have, then this will be the third appearance on the full force for Hasbro Product Design Manager Lenny Panzica, and the first time ever for Sculpt Manager Cory Cantelupe. Basically, that means that Lenny should know better and Cory has no idea what he's gotten himself into.
No better is irrelevant.
Anyway, it's been a while since we discussed the classified line with the team behind the amazing line of 6-inch action figures, and we have a lot to talk about. Guys, welcome to the show. Great to have you back, Lenny, and welcome, Cory. Fantastic to have you on for the first time. How are you both doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed, though, immediately, is that Cory's changed his background to the one that's usually in shot, so he's had to put all his G.I. Joe classified figures up for this particular, which I'm very appreciative of. Thank you. And
No
Lenny, you've removed your beard.
It fell off, man. I don't know what happened to it. I mean, I was saying earlier, I donated it. Somebody's got to wear a beard, you know? And then I was like preparing. I was like, should I be like, I went from rock and roll to Duke?
Yes, you did.
Maybe more Flint.
Yeah, I was going to say you're rocking the Flint look right now, absolutely. And
yeah.
speaking of Flint, actually, Flint and J, they were the last figures, I think, well, they were the figures that were released shortly after the last time I spoke to you, Lenny. So we've got a lot to cover in this. So let's get stuck into Flint and Lady J first. Sounds horrible. Sure. And we'll start, actually, Cory, we'll start with you first, but if you don't mind.
Sure.
And because we would usually talk about your background and we get into all of the stuff that you're into, but unfortunately we've got a short amount of time. So straight into Flint and J. I mean, first off, just in a general term, how is it working on the classified line? Is this like a dream come true for you?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a longtime Joe collector and Joe fan. I've been in the industry now for 12 years, and G.I. Joe, the Pursuit of Cobra and such was something that I really got to cut my teeth on when I first started. So being able to come back to the brand, and work on it with Lenny and the rest of the team has just been incredible. It's really been, a lot of my favorite stuff to work on, throughout the years. And being G.I. Joe and a Hasbro-owned property, you get to put a little bit more of yourself into that product and into the, the sculpts and the design. And so it's just been, a dream come true is very accurate.
Lenny, then, we'll come to you first about the design aspects for Flint and J, and then we'll move into some sculpt stuff with Cory. But in terms of like the designs, they stick very close to the kind of vintage. At the same time, you've got those updates going on. I mean, how did you approach these particular characters who are very iconic, aren't they, in the brand?
Well, I think with Flint and Lady J, for me as a kid, they always read the most as like military type character, kind of like in the Duke sense, and that's how we look at Joe. There's some military characters, there's sci-fi characters, there's ridiculous Cobra villains, right? So in the case of them, you had to keep it pretty close to military if you're going to do them right. However, there were things that we needed to update on them to make them feel like a more modern sci-fi military kind of world that they would fit in.
Yeah.
In the case of Flint, we had the I always say it wrong, flak jacket or bulletproof vest, I guess. But we wanted to sci-fi it up just a little bit, not too much, subtle.
Yeah.
You notice there's a bullet hole right over his heart.
Crazy.
Lady killer. But so the idea there was we wanted to take it a little further, but keep them pretty close to military look. And then, of course, we wanted to get his iconic shotgun in there. I remember when we were developing it, I had it on the sculpt input board, and we were sci-fiing it up. Like, let's pull it back a little bit. So if you notice, it's like a Hasbro-owned shotgun, if you will.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see this in the Nerf line at some point in the future, honestly.
We should just start trading back.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember Cory was like, do you want to make it? Do you want to make the barrel?
Oh.
I was like, yes, I do.
So Cory, that was on you then, was it, mate?
I mean, it's, working with Lenny is always super collaborative, and he's great to be able to, bounce ideas off of, and so when it comes to, adding a little more functionality and doing those types of things. It was something that I pitched. He liked it, and
That's amazing. So
It
basically,
worked out pretty well.
Lenny does some stuff, you improve it. That's how it works, right, Lenny?
Pretty much. But it's really like our process is pretty awesome. I mean, I'm pretty direct with my direction.
Yeah.
Pretty exact what I want. But Cory is such a, I would say, a wonderful human being, awesome like asset to the team, where he sees things and he's so invested. Where he's like, dude, what if we do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, Chris might kill us for cost, but let's try it. And then poor Chris, our engineer, has to deal with us.
That's
But yeah,
brilliant.
it's like that, man. I mean, we have our vision, but classified is such a line where you don't have a licensor who's telling you exactly what to do.
Right.
Well, licensors don't tell you exactly what to do, but like have a heavy hand in what their brand should look like.
Yeah.
There
And
are
also, I
times
mean,
where-
I guess you're looking at stuff that's already in existence as well, aren't you? To kind of like
Yes.
develop into a toy, where in this case, you're literally starting from scratch in a sense, aren't you?
It's interesting too, because on Flint, we were going to go original, just I forget what they're called, but the suspenders with the shells
the
on
bullet
it.
suspenders, yeah.
But then we felt
Shell
he wasn't
suspenders.
he wasn't feeling classified enough. So we're like, we need to add something to him to give that little bit more classified look, and that's where the kind of like, I don't want to say sci-fi, but like 5 years in the future military vest is on it.
Yeah, that worked perfectly as well. Actually, when you see it, it makes sense. Like visually, it makes sense, and it has the cues there. Like, yeah, it's really, really,
Those don't have
really awesome.
superpowers. They got to wear stuff to stop them from getting
Exactly.
killed.
Yeah, it's already bad enough that
Those
the vehicles are exposed, isn't it? Like you're sitting on top of a Havoc, just like, okay, well, I guess I'm dead today. But
So, but I know that you said we don't have that much time, but like on Lady J, what we did was we had a lot of designs that went really far and a lot of designs went back, when we felt ultimately we needed to keep her more in that military aspect.
yeah.
One thing we did keep was the updated camera on her back.
Oh, that thing is awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. With G.I. Joe, we really want to push where 6-inch action figures can go, because we can, and we should. And just like they did with 3 3/4 inch in the 80s, we're trying to do the same thing. So we're like, she has the camera, but like, how do we, 5 years, 10 years in the future? I mean, there's cameras like that already. So how do we invest that into the character? And then on top of it, how do you store all this stuff? Warren has been talking about that since day one. It's like, there's so much stuff on G.I. Joe. Let's store it inside backpacks and so forth and so on, and do what we can when we can, engineering and QA wise.
Yeah.
You'll notice some things change, because I mean, ultimately it's a 4+ toy.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, like, I love the aspect of fitting everything on and everything. I mean, how much of a challenge is that, Cory, when you've got to sculpt this stuff? So, I mean, how long does it take you on average to do, say, like, like a figure's worth of accessories and the figure? I mean, how long are we talking?
So, on a figure like Lady J, where everything is new, she's not utilizing any partial figure sculpts. So full new sculpt, all new accessories, everything. Those are usually about 4 to 5 weeks to sculpt.
Blimey.
Yeah, so it's a decent amount of time. Yeah, and so
isn't there just a push sculpt button on?
Right. Yeah, it's just you take an image and you just say make that 3D. Yep.
Just like there's a make podcast button and a design classified figure button. That's what I think a lot of people think. Something 4 to 5 weeks is insanity. That's crazy.
It's a lot. Yep. And so we're always working on multiple figures at once. And so, it's my job to work with, other artists to, essentially say, okay, you're going to work on this figure, you're going to work on this figure, and then making sure the line is cohesive, and looks classified across all of the figures that we're doing. And to make sure that just all of our aesthetics are there, all the details that we need, no matter what artist we are specifically working with.
Well, obviously there's a lot of stuff in the classified line since we last spoke, Lenny, and obviously there's things like the Fortnite collaboration, there's the movie classified stuff. What I was thinking is maybe we can probably touch on that on another day, where we talk about the kind of collaborative stuff, and if we focus on like the standard release and the Target exclusive stuff, I think that's probably like a good way to go. So kind of zipping beyond, but not obviously, we'll be coming back to Fortnite and movie classified another time. Let's get into Major Bludd, because that figure is absolutely exceptional. Major Bludd!
Well, you can do his voice for us.
I should do. I mean, absolutely crazy.
Gotta go more grimy though with that.
We've gone right off track. But yes, Major Bludd, beautiful figure. Incredible work here. Take us through the design process on this one, on Lenny. This is just stunning.
So for this guy, I mean, everybody kind of knows, you look at him, he's got some Cobra Trooper parts on him. So we're like, we wanted to build off of that body. So how do we marry that body into Major Bludd, but then modernize him a little bit?
Yeah.
So when we look at him, I think one of the biggest changes we made was actually putting that like ocular eye kind of thing,
cybernetic kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So I was channeling the 90s a little bit with that, but at the same time, it's like he's got a robot arm. What is operating the robot arm? So in my head, when I was doing the input, I was like, what if he's got some sort of chip, or like the data is connected to his like neural link, and that's what makes the arm move?
Yeah. And
it's like this sort of like cerebral connection to the arm.
You're a messed up guy, mate. This is going through your head.
I think it's why we love it so much, because we have to get deeper in our design. We got to think it out. Like, how's this going to work? Does this make sense? And if we're going to update it, will the consumer accept it? Right. So in the case of Major Bludd, we were very lucky where people really like him. And then of course we had to channel the 80s with that dirty mustache. We went crazy on that thing. So, but for the overall body, if you look at it, it's really pretty much his like rib cage armor that he had in the cartoon. We just kind of upped it a little bit. We added more of that, like, I think Gundam does it a lot, where like in the internals of something, you'll see all the gobbledygook. It's like, I was thinking of like Ghost in the Shell kind of design. All the gobbledygook is inside and hidden, but it insinuates that something else is going on with this guy. Yeah. And then the helmet, we wanted to make the helmet a little more vicious, so I added that crazy spike in there. So literally, he's hitting people. We did a shot of it. I was like telling the photographer, I'm like, brutal. He needs to hit somebody with the helmet.
Brutal, absolutely.
So we want him to be brutal. He's a mercenary, right?
Yeah.
So,
and another thing I really like as well are the haircuts. Obviously, the Flint one we kind of breezed past, but I love the John Hamm kind of looking guy. I always say that. I think I've got some sort of love affection for John Hamm. I think there's something going on there. He's a great guy, beautiful man. But yeah, and like the Major Bludd as well, great. Like, I love the hair updates, and obviously Gung Ho as well. I mean, that must be fun to sculpt as well, Cory, but also quite difficult, especially with the Flint having to fit the hat on and everything. How much of a challenge was that?
It was definitely a challenge. You know, we want to be able to do these new haircuts, you know, and update them to make sure they're feeling modern, you know, and feel like they're, you know, a little GQ in their look, but still, but still very military and very realistic to what you'd want these characters to be. And so with Flint, you know, it very easily became that the hat was just like massive, and so we wanted to make sure that it was nice and tight on the sides, so it kind of worked the hairstyle to know what our end goal was, to have this hat feel appropriate without needing to just sculpt the hat to the head. We try to avoid that where we can, because we do want this to be able to have a little bit more play and a little more modularity than you would expect from the older lines, and the 4-inch figures specifically. This allows more opportunity for us.
No, that's brilliant. And also, like I need to see pictures of the pre-production stuff, because I want to see like a giant like beret on the top.
We were like, it looks like a chef hat at first.
Yeah, it did. It was
brilliant.
Cory did a lot. I'm telling you, he's an amazing individual. I don't know if he's going to be next to me in the interview or not, but like pointing, I'll do a couple of points where
he'll either be below, below. Point down, and you're sorted. There you go. No, that's amazing. And again, must be the similar thing with Major Bludd. Is that kind of the helmet kind of locks into that kind of headpiece as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
The input, it was much smaller on the input, but I think as we developed it a little, because I wanted to be super tight, but as we developed it, it didn't feel like Major Bludd, and we had to really like skew it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. Brilliant figure. Excellent work on that one, lads. Fantastic stuff. Next up then, and this was a real surprise when it dropped, but Barbecue. And oh my goodness, what a beautiful figure Barbecue is. Again, very, very close to that kind of vintage aesthetic, but so many beautiful little additions in there. Lenny, again, take us through that design process, bud.
Sure. Yeah, Barbecue's funny. I've been wanting to do Barbecue since we started talking about G.I. Joe Classified. Barbecue, along with like Alley Viper and all those characters when I was a kid. I used to play with them all the time. Maybe I loved orange or something, but like I would always take them on their specific adventures. I think it was their masks. They were so cool.
Yeah.
It's got that like Star Wars feel to it.
Big time.
But with him, it was funny. We're like, how are we gonna make barbecue? Like, this is gonna be a difficult figure to do, but above the odds, we figured it out. We came up with a new look for him. I think with him design wise, my thought was he needs to have more military stuff on him. Like, he needs to have more like vest pockets and stuff like that. And then we added a rebreather, if you notice, to the mask.
Yeah.
And then we were like, how do we handle the backpack? The old school backpack was like the two pieces, like slapped, like G.I. Joe sandwiches, if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember it very, very clearly.
So we're like, as cool as that was, like, how do we do it so it's a little more tactical in a way? Like, it makes, I always use that word all the time, but how does it feel like it's a little more like real? I guess.
Yeah.
So, we stayed pretty close to the classic. And again, we're listening to a lot of comments and stuff like that, and we look at that and we're like, oh, okay, all right, so maybe this was a little too far, or maybe this was not far enough. So again, it's a young line, and that's the beauty of G.I. Joe. It's kind of like we are setting a course forward. We will always respect the past. We will do opportunities for the past and celebration for that. But classified ultimately is a lot like Generations, where it's like, where else we going with this?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, in the case of him, we stay pretty classic, but a little more military.
Yeah. Was barbecue a favorite of yours, Cory?
He wasn't one that I had as a kid, but when I was watching the show, the design was definitely one that spoke to me. And then especially once working with Lenny, working on his design and sort of earlier concepting of him, it was one that I immediately fell in love with. This design was played on the themes of the firefighter sort of kind of classic costume,
yes.
but then updating it so that it felt very heroic and almost even to the point of like aggressive, which I really enjoyed. And the mask design is super cool. And then once Lenny added in that big axe, it was just like this, just loved that aspect to it, to where with Lenny, working with him is also fantastic. And one of the things that I always admire about him is that he's always approaching a character design from a story standpoint.
Yeah.
And so when, it's not just, hey, let's put in another axe. It's like, oh, he's going to need that axe because he's going to have to bust through walls, and, he's going to have to,
Right.
save his friends from these fires.
It's like necessity is the mother of invention on this, isn't it? It's like you create the story, and then it's like, well, what's he going to need for it? So what are they going to need for it? Yeah, absolutely.
There's a little bit of dorkiness going on there too. I mean, I didn't read the comics a lot. I'm like, I brush up on them and stuff because I was a bit young for them. But like he would handle, I think, like a barbarian.
Yeah,
and I'm like, when you think of like a firefighter like breaking down a wall, it's like he had the little hand axe. You got to break down a wall sometimes. You know what I mean? So
yes.
It's like, let's go all out. I mean, Cory and I are both D&D dorks, so we're like, yes, next. So,
D&D, that would be D&D dorks. Dungeons and dorks. Right. No, I love that too. I mean, we're on a podcast. What the hell? So next up, then, obviously, barbecue, amazing. I will say, I love those tampos you've added on the backpack as well.
Oh yeah, that was
beautiful.
We didn't know we can go that small, but we can.
It's insane, and I'm really looking forward to seeing. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
It was like on the Cobra Commander. We didn't know we can do it. We tried, and then we got it. And we said, "Whoa, this looks cool." So we'll do more.
Awesome. Okay, well, next up then we've got Breaker with Ram, and this was a surprise as well because it's like, who was expecting a motorcycle out of nowhere? Like that. Amazing. So. Again, there's a lot of really cool stuff about this figure and the vehicle. We talked about them kind of like as they're the same thing, but they're two separate things effectively, aren't they? So, I mean, how was that as a challenge, Cory, in terms of like going into the vehicle side of sculpting? Yeah,
so the vehicles are handled a little bit differently. We work very closely with our manufacturing partners, on the very engineering heavy and sort of the more hard-edged sculpting and 3D development.
Yeah.
So they are a different beast for sure. So we work with them very closely. And when you're working on a motorcycle and whatnot, you need to have the manufacturing in mind, right from the get-go, because we're not just making a motorcycle. We need it to have functional wheels. We need to have the kickstand, the gun attachment, all those things, just adds complexity that, if you're not working on that from the start, it becomes, a lot more complicated on the back end. So working with them, very closely, and they do a lot of the actual 3D development, and then we work with them to make sure that it is, executing the vision that that Lenny and the team has.
Yeah.
And so
and the gun as well. I mean, Lenny, take us through that ridiculous piece of machinery on the side of a motorcycle.
Before we jump into that Gatling gun, which Cory made it was a kid dove into that thing. It was awesome. But the bike itself went through a lot of iterations and costing iterations because Classified, and I want people to understand this, Classified is a young line. It is not Legends. It is not Black Series.
I can't believe we're only in year 2 right now.
We're in year 2, and it's not even year 2. It's year and a half. If you think about it.
Yeah.
So we're still building up steam, right, and building up confidence. So a lot of this stuff is we have to build confidence to prove that this line works, right? So the other thing with making vehicles, we knew we had to get vehicles. G.I. Joe, you can't have G.I. Joe without vehicles. So for the Ram was perfect fit, price-wise, perfect fit to build confidence, and plus it gets some green shirts in there. You start getting Breaker in there, right?
Yeah.
So the idea with the Ram was all right, let's keep it pretty classic. But I think in the original design spec, I was I want to make it more like a dirt bike a little bit, because it's got to be able to go over more terrains, because G.I. Joe's a rugged brand. You want rugged vehicles, and the military aspect of it, you want it to be able to traverse wherever you need to go, wherever there's trouble.
Yeah. You'll be there. We get it. Wherever there's trouble, Lenny is always there because he's caused it.
Usually, yeah.
But yeah, so it was back and forth, but we ultimately netted out on that design, and there's a lot of back and forth because vehicles are very expensive to make.
Yeah.
Just because they take away from other action figures and other choices. And then just from the engineering standpoint, like Cory said, it's from the ground up, it needs to be engineered and designed at the same time. A lot of times the figures, we have our buck. So then the buck is then designed on top of the vehicle. It's you're kind of treading the ground, this whole sidecar. It was how are we going to attach a sidecar? It's different than 3D quarter. You can't do exactly the same thing because of the pegs are going to be huge, which they kind of are.
Yeah.
But it works really well with how it connects into the side. So going on a diatribe, but
it's amazing. What I love about it is the fact that it comes out and you can use it. So even though people have kind of commented on the fact that Breaker is slight on accessories and stuff like that, I'm he comes with a bike, guys, and a giant gun that can be detached from said bike. I think he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right ammo wise. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. We felt the same way too. We're we got to get his backpack in there. We got to get his cord in there. Like I said, there's hard choices we've got to make.
Yeah.
And in this version of Breaker never came with the Ram back in the day. So it's we're offering you Breaker with the Ram. The Ram never came with Breaker, but he was on the box art, so that's why the decision was made with Breaker on.
He was on the box art with no beard as well. So you're just homaging that, aren't you? You're homaging the.
Actually, next time you see Tony, you got to bust his chops because Tony kind of looks like him on accident. It's really weird. I think it's weird that does it, but. Again, I'm going on a tangent again.
Well, that was a great tangent. Again, Breaker's a brilliant figure. And just to kind of finish off the interview, because we are on a tight schedule, the last one I want to talk about is the most recent reveal, the PulseCon 2021 Master of Disguise Deluxe Zartan. Now, we discussed Zartan, very in depth last time we spoke, so we don't need to go necessarily into those detailed aspects. What we can talk about is the fact that he changes color. You absolute mad geniuses, you.
So you want to hear something about the change color thing?
Yes.
We looked at, what is it called? Not so it's called thermochromic currently.
Right.
So we looked at, Cory, why am I drawing a blank?
Photochromic?
Photochromic, thank you. So
You're
photochromic's interesting. When we were kids, it was a different material.
Yeah.
And when we tested the photochromic, because I have samples of it tested.
Amazing.
It was cool too. When I was doing it, it was cool, but it happened so fast. It reacts to flashes. So if a camera flashes, it will react to it.
Wow.
And it only lasts 4 times.
Oh, wow.
So that is why we went with temperature.
Because it's got a bit more longevity to it and everything. Yeah. Well,
as dorks, we're this is supposed to be photochromic. But we found that what was happening was when we were doing our QC testing and we were doing our upfront.
Interesting.
It only lasts a couple of times, and we can't release a product like that.
Yeah,
and people want a product that's going to fail after 4. It's called 4 cycles.
Don't tell them.
Here's your Zartan. But we ended up going with the thermo because it's kind of perfect for photography.
Yeah.
Really, if you have a cooler with you, and then what's kind of cool about it too is like it'll gauge with how cold it gets.
Wow.
So it gets even deeper blue.
Wow.
You can use the heat of your hand to make like patterns on them.
Amazing.
But my daughter and I actually do it all the time. And you make like weird kind of like cool
scars and
how the sun would be dappling on him. So
that's brilliant.
I wanted everybody to know that because I saw some people being like, "What are you guys doing?" It's like, no, we have to. So,
yeah, no, I totally understand.
It's a nice solve though, because it's for all the toy photographers who are out there, which thank you guys so much. Oh my God, it's a good job. It's like phenomenal and so amazing to see this stuff happen. It actually helps. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling you now, like I take it as well. It's quite an expensive process, and that's why he's a deluxe figure as opposed to doing that on like the retail side of things, or just the retail version of Zartan. That makes that's obvious. We don't have to go into that. Amazing little accessories too, like throwing in like the hard master, the soft master, the kind of that kind of like skull, like the Dreadnoks like logo.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Yes,
really dope.
Yeah.
So, am I right in saying that those are masks, including the old one that Zartan had in the retail version, and the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow are heads?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
So, the story behind that was.
Here's the story, Cory.
Oh yeah, every time, always.
The story is the assassination of Hardmaster.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how do we recreate that in a way that you can play it out? Is he sneaking into Arashikage Castle as who? I don't know. Nobody really knows. The story has been told 5 times. So we really want to get that across. And then the other mask is actually, if you look at it, there's like ocular like lenses on it. So like not only is it that 90s, remember the 90s Dreadnought sticker thing?
Yes.
It's that, but like with some like heavy metal mixed with some like Splinter Cell stuff.
Amazing. Well, again, like how much fun was that to work on, Cory, in terms of like those kind of sculpts? Because I mean, like hard master, soft master, that you must have been like, really excited to kind of get into those kind of characters.
Oh, for sure. And it's cool to do them as masks because that does create an extra layer of challenge, because you need them to look realistic. You need them to look, as accurate, to a human face as possible, but then still wearable by the figure. The old figures that had the mask, they would always be these massive, Halloween masks. And so we really tried to, make those wall thicknesses as thin as possible, yet, make sure it can still grip onto the face, and so, they were super fun to do, and the artist that I had working on that was the same one that did the original Zartan. So he was really excited to be able to do more masks and continue working on that figure and that character. And so it's just... it's an awesome figure. It's an awesome line, and also, of course, being able to do the new big sniper rifle that he comes with.
Amazing.
Well, it was always fun. So.
I mean, we could talk for days on this stuff, I'm sure, but unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time together. Exactly, and actually, it just clicks over. So I'm just going to say, guys, thank you so much. That brings us to the end. Lenny, Cory, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me about your work on the classified line. I've said it before. But I cannot recommend this line enough. If you're on the fence still, I don't know if that's even a thing right now. They're selling out all over the place. Get off it. Get into this line. It's incredible. I hope you've had a good time, guys. I'd love to have you back on in the future, especially with more reveals. Maybe as well to talk about some of the stuff we haven't been able to squeeze in today.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. This is great.
Fantastic.
We can certainly talk about this forever. So,
I mean, Cory and I talk about it literally all day, and we'll talk about it with you. And dude, man.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks very much. Have a great day, and thanks very much, everyone on the call, all the millions of people on the call.
We're gonna do the explosion now, right?
Yeah. Perfect. And you all joined in, so that's perfect. Actually, you all say full force at the same time, and that'll be my day made. After 3,
awesome.
1, 2, 3. Force. Perfect.
Force.
Perfect.
Access granted.
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.
Access granted.